I stared at my phone screen, watching the group chat light up with plans for weekend dinners and birthday surprises. My friends were buzzing about a party they were throwing for someone named Jessica. I smiled, genuinely happy for her, though that smile barely hid the ache in my chest. My own birthday had slipped by just 3 days ago, quietly, like every year. Not a single text, not a single call from my family. 20-7 years old, and every October still felt like a reminder of how invisible I was to them. Every year, the excuses repeated like clockwork: business trips, urgent deadlines, sudden emergencies. Somehow, every single one landed right on October 15th, when I turned 12. They missed it because Veronica, my sister, had a dance recital. At 16, Dad had an urgent meeting in Dallas. At 21, Mom claimed she had a migraine and stayed in bed while Veronica went shopping. The pattern never broke. It just hardened into something heavier with each passing year. Now, I worked as a commercial interior designer in Portland restaurants, cafes, boutique spaces. The job was demanding, but I'd built something real. My name carried weight in the industry, and my work was featured in some of the most talked about spots across the Pacific Northwest. The money was good, better than good. My apartment reflected everything I loved: clean lines, natural textures, warm lighting. It looked like home, but the truth was, it never felt like one. Not really, especially on days that should have mattered. This year, though, I decided I wasn't going to wait around for people who never showed up. I wanted something that belonged entirely to me, a space untouched by disappointment. I'd been searching for months, and 3 weeks before my birthday I found it: a cabin, hidden deep in the Cascade Mountains, about 2 hours from Portland. Cedar siding, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking a still, glassy lake, a private dock stretching into the water. 2 acres of pine forest, completely isolated, completely perfect. The price was steep, but I had saved aggressively, invested wisely, and the owners wanted a quick sale. They were retiring to Arizona. I was buying my piece. We closed in record time. I spent my actual birthday, October 15th, driving up to the cabin with my closest friends: Brooke, my brutally honest physical therapist friend; Daniel, a graphic designer with a laugh that could light up a room; and Kiara, a pastry chef who believed dessert could fix almost anything. That day felt like magic. The autumn sun poured gold over the lake as we arrived. Brooke popped open champagne. Daniel connected his speaker and filled the cabin with old songs we all knew by heart. Kiara unveiled a towering 3-tiered chocolate cake she'd baked just for me. We sat for hours on the dock, our feet skimming the cold water, talking about everything and nothing. Daniel taught us a strange card game his grandmother had invented. Kiara told her dating horror stories, and Brooke tried teaching us yoga until we all collapsed in laughter. By sunset, we lit a fire in the stone fireplace. The warmth wrapped around us, and for the first time in years, I felt it: pure, uncomplicated happiness. Later, under a sky scattered with stars, Brooke raised her glass. "To Addison," she said softly, her eyes glinting in the firelight. "The most talented designer I know, the best friend anyone could ask for, and now a lakefront property owner. Happy birthday." The glasses clinked, and I felt tears sting my eyes. These weren't people tied to me by blood. They were tied to me by choice, and they chose to show up. The next day, after everyone left, I stayed behind. I walked the property slowly, imagining wildflowers in spring, mornings filled with silence instead of missed calls. I took photos of everything: the cabin, in morning light, the dock, the forest, the fire-lit living room. Man posted them to Instagram with a simple caption: "Best birthday ever." I didn't expect what came next. By Monday morning, I was back in my apartment, deep in work mode, sketching ideas for a new restaurant client, when my phone started vibrating nonstop. First came my mother's message: "Addison, we need to talk. Call me immediately." Then my father: "What is this property on your Instagram? We need to discuss this as a family." And then Veronica: "Are you kidding me? You bought a cabin without telling us." I stared at my screen, disbelief curdling into irritation. They hadn't remembered my birthday, not one text, not one call. But now, suddenly, they cared because I had something they wanted to understand. Or worse, control. I ignored the messages and tried to focus on my sketches. But then came the doorbell. Through the peephole I froze. All 3 of them stood there. My mother in her expensive coat, hair perfect as always. My father, arms crossed, face carved with disapproval. Veronica scrolling her phone with that same detached smirk. For a second, I thought about pretending I wasn't home. But curiosity or maybe resentment-1. Opened the door. What are you doing here? We need to talk about the cabin, my father said, his tone as commanding as ever. He always spoke like the world owed him an explanation. What about it? I didn't step aside. Let us in, my mother said smoothly. This isn't a hallway conversation. Against my better judgment, I moved aside. They entered like critics inspecting a hotel lobby. My mother straightened a pillow. Veronica wrinkled her nose at my vintage posters, and my father sat down like he owned the place. When were you planning to tell us about this purchase? My father asked. I wasn't. It's my property, my money. It has nothing to do with you. Veronica finally looked up from her phone. Actually, it does. That cabin should be family property. I laughed, sharp, bitter. Family property. You people didn't even remember my birthday. Don't be dramatic, my mother sighed. You know how busy we are. Too busy for a text. I shot back. You saw those photos for days later. That's what reminded you I exist. You're 27, my father said, waving a dismissive hand. Birthdays are for children. The words hit like a slap. I had heard them before, but they never stopped cutting. Why are you really here? I asked quietly. My father leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes cold. That cabin represents a significant asset. As your parents, we have a right to be involved in decisions like this. A right? Yes, my mother said quickly. We're family. Family shares things. That cabin could be a vacation spot for all of us. Veronica's children would love it. You mean the family that forgets I exist now wants to use my cabin? There's no need for that tone, my father snapped. We're here, aren't we? Showing interest. Because you saw something you wanted, I said, not because you care. This is why we don't visit more, Veronica muttered. You always make everything about your feelings. My jaw clenched. Before I could respond, my father stood up, his voice turning cold and formal, the tone he used to close business deals. Here's the situation, Addison, he said. Your mother and I have discussed it. We believe that 50% of that property should be transferred to the family. I blinked. Excuse me, 50% ownership, my mother confirmed like it was nothing. It's only fair. We've supported you, your whole life. Supported me. My voice rose. You paid for college, yes, and I've thanked you for that. But I've been on my own for 6 years. I paid for that cabin myself. You have no claim to it. This isn't about legality, my father scoffed. It's about family duty. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. The least you can do is share your good fortune. My good fortune, I said, feeling the heat crawl up my neck. I worked 80-hour weeks. I earned that cabin. That's not luck, it's effort. And who do you think gave you the foundation to work those hours? My mother shot back. We paid for your education. We gave you stability. Don't forget where you came from. Everything you have because of us. My father's words cut through the air like a blade. Veronica finally looked up from her phone. Just give them the paperwork, Addison. It's not that complicated. We all get to use the cabin, and everyone's happy. No, I said firmly. Absolutely not. The word hung between us like smoke, sharp, heavy, final. My father's expression hardened into something cold and deliberate. My mother's lips tightened into a razor-thin line. Even Veronica looked startled, as though she'd genuinely believed I would fold, like always. No, my father repeated quietly, a dangerous calm in his voice. No, I said again, louder this time. This is my property. I'm not transferring ownership, not a single percentage to anyone. You need to leave, now. You're making a mistake, my mother said, rising from her chair. Family should come first, Addison. We've always been there for you, and this is how you repay us. Always been there. The words made something inside me snap. Years of restraint, years of silence, broke all at once. You have never been there, I said, my voice trembling with anger. Not for my high school graduation when you took Veronica to a spa weekend instead. Not for my college showcase after months of preparation you didn't even bother to show up. Not for my birthday. Not once in 10 years. You're not here out of love, you're here because you want something from me. That's a horrible thing to say, Veronica said sharply, pocketing her phone. Mom and Dad have done everything for us. Just because you're bitter and ungrateful doesn't mean you get to rewrite history. I'm not rewriting anything, I said coldly. I'm finally seeing it clearly. You've used me as the convenient child, the one who doesn't need attention, who doesn't complain, so you could pour everything into Veronica. And I let it happen. I thought if I worked harder, became more successful, you'd finally see me. My voice cracked, But you never did. You only see what you can take from me. My father moved toward the door, jaw clenched. You have 48 hours to reconsider, he said. If you don't share this property with your family, there will be consequences. Consequences. I followed him. What are you going to do? Ignore me more than you already do? His eyes narrowed. We could make things difficult for you professionally, he said softly. I have connections in this city, people who work with designers. It would be unfortunate if your reputation suffered because of your selfishness. The threat sent a chill down my spine, but beneath the fear, something stronger rose. Anger. Get out, I said quietly. Get out of my apartment, right now. 48 hours, my mother repeated as they filed out. Think carefully, Addison. What matters, more your family, or a piece of property? I locked the door behind them. My hands were shaking. They hadn't come to make amends. They hadn't come to apologize for a decade of neglect. They came to claim something that wasn't theirs, to take what I'd built, alone. The worst part wasn't even their demand, it was their entitlement. The assumption that my success was somehow theirs by right. I pulled out my phone and opened my group chat with Brooke, Daniel, and Kiara. My fingers flew over the keyboard as I told them everything. Their replies came instantly, a flood of angry emojis and fierce support. Brooke, that's literally extortion. Do not give them anything. Daniel, that cabin is yours. Kiara, want me to bake them a cake that looks perfect but tastes like regret. Because I can. Despite everything, I smiled. These were my people, my chosen family. They didn't want anything from me except to stand beside me. That night, I couldn't sleep. My father's threat kept looping in my mind. He did have connections. Many of my clients came through referrals from his business network. He could make trouble if he wanted to, but the thought of my parents setting foot in my cabin, turning my peace into another battlefield, made my stomach twist. By morning, I'd made my decision. I wasn't giving them anything. Not 50%, not 10%, not even a spare key. If my father wanted a war, he'd have one. I called my lawyer, Francine, a sharp, composed woman who had helped me set up my LLC 3 years ago. I explained everything. They have no legal standing, Francine said calmly. The property's in your name, paid with your funds. They can't force you to hand it over. As for the threats, document everything. What if he really tries to ruin my career? I asked. Then we go after him, Francine said. But bullies like this usually back down when they realize you're not afraid. I tried to focus on work for the next 2 days, but the anxiety never left. The 48-hour deadline loomed. Wednesday evening, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Veronica, alone. Curiosity won over caution. I opened the door. What do you want? She looked different, tired, nervous. Can I come in? Just for a minute. I'm not here to fight. Reluctantly, I stepped aside. She sat on the couch, clutching a coffee cup like a lifeline. Mom and Dad are furious, she said. They really thought you'd cave. And you're here to convince me. Actually, no. She stared down at her cup. I'm here to tell you something I should have said years ago. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I didn't trust it yet. You were right, she said quietly. They've always favored me. I let it happen because it was easier than dealing with them. But I overheard them last night. She hesitated. They're planning to challenge the property purchase. My stomach dropped. On what grounds? Dad's claiming he gave you a loan 3 years ago, $200,000 for your business. He says that money went into the cabin. That's a lie, I said sharply. He never loaned me anything. I know, Veronica whispered, but he's already talking to his lawyer. He thinks he can create enough confusion to tie you up in court for years. The room tilted slightly. This wasn't sabotage, it was war. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She finally looked at me, her eyes soft. Because I'm tired of being their puppet. And because it's wrong. I have kids now, Addison. I don't want them growing up thinking manipulation is love. She stood, leaving the coffee cup on my table. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know so you can protect yourself. After she left, I immediately called Francine. This is intimidation, Francine said flatly. Classic false claim tactic. Without proof of that loan, they have nothing, but they can still file, hoping you'll give up. What do I do? Get ahead of it. Gather everything. Bank statements, tax returns, investment records. We'll build a clean, traceable trail. For the next 2 days, I buried myself in paperwork. Bank statements, tax returns, investment histories, every line, telling the story of my independence. By Friday, I was exhausted but focused. Brooke called that evening. Enough law talk, she said. Kiara's bringing food, Daniel's bringing wine. We're coming over. They arrived like a storm of laughter and comfort. Kiara's takeout bags filled the table. Daniel queued up terrible action movies. Brooke declared, "Tonight we're not talking about your nightmare family." For a few precious hours, we laughed until we cried. I almost felt normal again. Until midnight when my father's email arrived. From Dad's subject. Final opportunity, transfer 50% ownership of the cabin to your mother and me by Monday 5 p.m., or we will pursue legal action. This is not the outcome any of us want, but your refusal to compromise shows a lack of family values. We are disappointed in you. I read it 3 times, my hands trembling with rage. The manipulation was almost laughable. I forwarded it to Francine. They're escalating. Her reply came minutes later. Good. Let them. Every message strengthens your case. Saturday morning, I drove to the cabin alone. I needed to remember why I was fighting. The drive through the mountains calmed me. The golden light over the lake reminded me what peace looked like. This place was mine, and I wasn't letting anyone take it as I walked the property. My phone rang, an unknown number. Addison, this is Trevor Hoffman. I work with your father. My pulse quickened. What do you want? Your father gave me your number, Trevor said. I need to talk to you about something important. Please, just 30 minutes, somewhere neutral. Something in his tone made me agree. We arranged to meet the next morning at a small coffee shop between Portland and the mountains. Sunday morning, Trevor arrived right on time. He looked worn down, gray hair, tired eyes. He didn't waste time. Your father has been embezzling from our company, he said quietly, for at least 2 years. I've gathered proof, fake invoices, missing funds, dummy accounts. He's stolen more than $800,000. The words hit like a blow. Why are you telling me this? Because when I confronted him, he said he'd fix it. He mentioned assets he could liquidate. Then I heard he was pressuring you about some cabin. I think he's planning to sell it to cover the money he stole. Everything fell into place. The sudden interest, the threats, the lawsuit. It was never about family. It was about covering his crimes. Does my mother know? I asked. I'm not sure, Trevor said, but I suspect she knows something. He sighed. I'm filing a lawsuit next week. I wanted you to know before it goes public, and I wanted to warn you he's going to get desperate. What should I do? Protect yourself, Trevor said simply. Don't sign anything. Don't engage. And if the threats continue, get a restraining order. After he left, I sat staring at my cold coffee for a long time. My father wasn't just manipulative, he was criminal. I drove home and gathered my friends. When I told them everything, Daniel's jaw dropped. Your dad's not just toxic, he said. He's a thief. I'm going to fight, I said. I'm done letting him control the narrative. By Monday, 5 p.m. came and went. I didn't respond to his threats. But that afternoon, Francine called. He's filed the lawsuit, she said, claiming he loaned you $200,000 for the cabin. We'll prove it's false, but it's official now. At 5:01, my father's voicemail came through. You've made a serious mistake, Addison. You had every chance to handle this privately. Now, the courts will decide who deserves that property. And good luck keeping your clients. I've already made calls. Portland's a small town, sweetheart. I forwarded it to Francine immediately. That night, I couldn't sleep. 10 days ago, I'd been celebrating my birthday with laughter and cake. Now I was fighting for my career and my sanity. But beneath the fear, something fierce was growing. He thought I'd break. He was wrong. This is textbook defamation, Francine said, her tone sharp as a blade. He made false statements, knew they were lies, and used them to destroy your business. We're adding this to our countersuit. That evening, I met Brooke, Daniel, and Kiara at a Korean barbecue place, our first real gathering since the legal storm began. I needed warmth, laughter, something human. How are you holding up? Brooke asked softly once we'd ordered. I'm exhausted, I admitted, but I'm angry, angrier than I've ever been, and somehow, that anger is keeping me standing. Good, Daniel said. You should be angry. What they're doing is vile. Kiara reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're going to win this. You have truth on your side. I stared at the sizzling grill, voice trembling. I keep thinking about all those years I tried to make them proud. Birthdays they forgot, achievements they dismissed. I wasted so much of my life wanting their approval. You didn't waste anything, Brooke said firmly. You built your own life, your own success. You bought a cabin by a lake. That's not nothing. It's everything, Daniel added. And they don't get credit for any of it. As the meat cooked, Laughter replaced tension. Daniel's terrible jokes. Kiara's chaotic dating story. For one brief hour, I wasn't someone's target, I was just me. Walking home later, a strange calm washed over me. 27 years of chasing their love, their validation. And it was all for nothing. But now, I saw it clearly. I didn't need them. I had a life I'd built with my own hands, friends who stood by me, and truth that couldn't be stolen. The next morning, clarity hit me like sunlight through fog. I called Francine. No more defense, I told her. I want to go on the offensive. A restraining order against my father for threats and harassment. Full pursuit of the defamation case. And the judge handling the property claim needs to know everything. Trevor's lawsuit, the embezzlement, all of it. Francine's voice sharpened with satisfaction. Now, we're talking. I'll start the paperwork. Things are about to get interesting. 2 weeks later, our attack plan was in motion. Restraining order filed, evidence submitted, voicemails, emails, witness statements. We requested the court to consider his credibility after the embezzlement charges. My father had underestimated me for the last time. The hearing arrived on a cold November morning. I sat beside Francine, heart steady as my father entered, pale and hollow. When his gaze met mine, I didn't flinch. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, listened carefully, reviewing every document. Then she looked up. Mr. Gerald, she said, you're accused of harassing your daughter and sabotaging her business. What do you have to say? His lawyer tried to smooth it over. Your Honor, this is a family misunderstanding. The judge's voice cut through the courtroom. Calling multiple business owners to spread false bankruptcy rumors is not a misunderstanding. That's harassment. When she granted the restraining order, my father's face turned ghost white. He couldn't contact me, my clients, or anyone in my life. One wrong move, and he'd face contempt charges. Walking out of that courtroom, I finally felt victory touch me. For the first time, someone had seen the truth and named it. But the property case was still ahead. When Trevor's embezzlement lawsuit became public, the business world turned on my father overnight. Headlines exposed everything: stolen funds, fake loans, deception. My mother filed for separation. Veronica told me later he'd taken out a secret mortgage just to hide his crimes. His empire was collapsing, and the truth was dragging him down. In court, his lawyer tried to argue the family loan again, but when the judge demanded proof, there was none. No records, no transfer, no evidence. So, the judge said coldly, you're asking me to believe you loaned your daughter $200,000 without a single document to prove it. Silence filled the room. Francine stood proudly, binder in hand. Your Honor, here are 6 years of bank statements showing every cent she earned and invested. There is no trace of any loan. The judge read the files quietly, then sighed. This is one of the most baseless claims I've seen. The plaintiff offers no proof. The defendant offers overwhelming evidence. Case dismissed with prejudice. And Mr. Gerald, you'll pay her legal fees. The gavel hit. My father's face went red, then drained of color. Outside, Francine hugged me. That's a total victory, Addison. He can't touch you now. I nodded, but inside I just felt tired. When Francine mentioned the defamation case, I agreed to proceed, but we both knew he'd fold soon. Christmas came quietly. No calls from family. Just laughter, snow, and warmth at the cabin with my friends. Daniel raised a glass to Addison, who stood up to bullies and won. I smiled. Not won yet, I said. Brooke grinned. Oh, you've already won what matters. She was right. My business recovered, stronger than before. My name cleared. Clients returned, some with apologies, some with respect. Even my reputation transformed. People whispered about the woman who fought back and didn't break. By spring, work poured in. I hired an assistant, Jasmine, young and bright-eyed, just like I once was. Then one warm April afternoon, as I planted wildflowers near the dock, Veronica called. Dad declared bankruptcy, she said. Mom got the house. He lost everything. I waited for satisfaction to bloom, but all I felt was quiet sadness. Veronica continued softly. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm proud of you. You fought back. You didn't let them win. Thank you, I said. Maybe one day, but not yet. After we hung up, I sat on the dock, watching sunlight dance on the lake. I thought about everything: the cabin, the chaos, the battles. I'd wanted peace but found strength instead. For 27 years, I'd let them define me. Their absence, their neglect. But not anymore. I wasn't small. I wasn't forgettable. I was finally free. By summer, The wildflowers I'd planted were in full bloom, purple, yellow, white waves around the cabin, my sanctuary, my proof that beauty can rise from ruin. As we sat around the fire pit one night, Daniel asked, "Do you ever regret fighting back?" "No," I said simply. "If I'd given them anything, they would have kept taking. The only way to stop manipulators is to end the game completely." On my 28th birthday, surrounded by laughter, love, and the smell of grilled salmon by the lake, Brooke raised her glass again to Addison, designer, fighter, and the woman who turned survival into strength. I smiled through tears. For the first time, they were happy ones. That night, alone under the stars, I realized the revenge I sought wasn't in my father's fall. It was in my freedom, my peace, my refusal to ever again let anyone make me feel small. I built my life from truth, love, and grit, and that was the ultimate victory.